If it's people's policy, shouldn't the people be at the center of it? It's been 15 years. Why is my city still underwater? Why should it be hard to withdraw my hard-earned money? Why do I have to run to 5 hospitals to find a bed? How many of us have to be raped before they start caring? Have humans lost their humanity? This night curfew has been on for years. Will this lockdown ever end? The questions on your mind are the ones we ask. The most important voice of the nation finally gets heard. Your voice, your views, your news. Mirror now, you first.
Hello everyone. The event will start soon. We request you all to patiently take your seats. Thank you. Good evening, one and all. This is Abhishek here from Students Alumni Cell IIT Kharagpur, welcoming you all to the second session of the prestigious Leadership Summit 2020, A Legacy to Cherish. It's been a week since the successful completion of the first session of our summit, and here we are back with the same spark that ignites a revolution, the same thought that escalates motivation, and the same journey that entails dedication. So once again, today we will witness the richly celebrated legacy of some of the most eminent personalities that our institute has developed over the years. So to begin with, I would like to introduce you all to Ms. Tanvi Shukla, our moderator for today's evening. Ms. Tanvi is the news editor at India's leading news channel, Mirror Now, a versatile journalist with a proven track record in news reportage and has also been associated with Times Now, CNBC TV, and ENA Money. So with this, I would like to hand over the cheese to Ms. Tanvi to take over the event. So here we have Ms. Tanvi Shukla. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And good evening, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. But a hearty welcome to everybody who's with us here. Let's appreciate the thing. It's been quite eventful for all of us to witness the first episode of the Leadership Summit. I was here on day one as well. It was a great interaction. We've been keeping a track of all the events that have been taking place. And now we are back with an exciting and innovating round two has been carried forward throughout the years, nurturing and molding generations of KGPNs to take on and conquer the world. In fact, IIT Kharagpur over the decades, as you all would know, has produced a plethora of revolutionary and creative minds that have immensely contributed to bringing the nation to new glory. So here we are to witness the same spark that has ignited the minds of many and impacted the digital world. That, of course, is the focus of this evening. The digital world, the world of entrepreneurship and virtue and innovation, though the virtue of leadership remains the same throughout all of it, and that's the focus in this all new edition of the Leadership Summit. And I think along with everybody from my team, truly honored to host some of the most successful people from the field of innovation, entrepreneurship, and digital technology. I want to just begin by introducing who's on this panel with me, and as I introduce you, I think all of us would like to hear a few words, your opening remarks, a message for the audience before we actually get into a proper conversation. So let me say good evening to Mr. Mohan Silapras. Mr. Mohan actually graduated in 1990 from the Department of Electronics and Electrical Communication Engineering. He's currently the head of technology programs, Times Professional Learning, and the co-founder of Trendwise Analytics. Prior to this, he served as an AI consultant at Manipal Global, general manager at IBM, and of course, vice president at SAP Labs India. He's had more than 30 years of experience in the IT industry and various leadership and technical roles. He's a renowned personality in the field of AI and deep learning. So, good evening to you, Mr. Mohan. A few words and address to everybody who's here this evening.
Thank you, Tanvi, for those kind words. Yeah, great to be here. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this panel. Yeah, this is an exciting event, and I think the topic digitization or digital transformation is everywhere, which is essential for the future, for the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and deep learning and machine learning. We need everything to be digitized and in digital form. So I think this is a great topic, and happy to be here and also to meet some of my good friends from campus. So it's really great. KGP ka tempo hai hai.
Thank you so much for that. Let's also say good evening to Ram Bamidi. Mr. Ram Bamidi is from the 1996 batch. He's the co-founder and the CEO of Circus Social. It's an award-winning social listening and analytics company. Previously, he was the CEO of Universal Lifestyle Solutions. And before that, he was the senior vice president of Shadi.com. While Mr. Bamidi was in KGP, I'm told he won a ton of grants by performing incredibly well in sports as well. After graduating from KCP, he pursued his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Good evening to you, Ram. Few words for our audience.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Tanvi, for the intro. Really appreciate it. It's very exciting to always be interacting with any event related to IIT Kharagpur, my alma mater. Very exciting to be here this evening. I run a social intelligence company. Today's topic is very, very close to my heart. We're going to talk about hopefully digital, social, big data, entrepreneurship. I'm really looking forward to having a stimulating discussion today.
Great. So am I. I think I'm the only non-KGPN on this platform, and maybe the only way I would have made it to this platform and conversation today is by being the moderator and not one of the expert panelists. But let's carry on with the introductions. Let's also say good evening to Apurva Kumar Sinha. Dr. Apurva graduated from the institute in 2002 with his bachelor's in aerospace engineering. He did his PhD in machine learning and complex systems from University of Southampton. He's currently the director of Cognizant. He's the Chief Technology Officer for Manufacturing and Transport at Hitachi Vantara. He was before that also the Chief of Transformation at Rolls-Royce. He's He was also the head of innovation and information management at Network Rail. More than 20 years of experience in innovation management in AI, machine learning, data ops. He's a chartered engineer and a fellow of the Royal Aeronautic Society as well. Good evening to you, Dr. Apurva. Go ahead, please, your opening comments.
Thanks, Tanvi. I mean, great company to have, and real honor to be speaking here. It's always an honor to come back to Alma Mater and at least excite some of the students who are going to get out of this institute and make a difference. I think there's not a better time to be an innovator or a digital entrepreneur. There couldn't be a better topic to discuss today. The world's changing, digital is everywhere around us. Enough challenges, including COVID, that has hitting us. I mean, one of the best times to be an innovator and be a leader in machine learning or in digital technology. So looking forward to a discussion today and hope to add some value to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for it. Good evening, Mr. Inderjeet Singh. Mr. Inderjeet Singh, who's done his master's in telecommunication engineering in 2003. He's a cyber security specialist, notable industry speaker, and an influencer with proven success in spearheading strategic information security initiatives. He's got more than 29 years of experience across a wide spectrum of areas. He's currently the Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Vara and Cyber Sleuths and the Director General of Cybersecurity Association of India. He's an ex-Chief Telecom Officer of UN and ex-Director and CISO of the Indian Army. Good evening to you, Mr. Inderjeet.
Thanks, Tanvi, and it's really a pleasure to be with you, all of you. And what a wonderful day, and with all the guys of IIT KGP, and always look back, and you really revive those days when you were in the campus. And while we are talking of that, we're also talking to take the KGP far ahead into the next gen. With all the technologies of AI, disruptive technologies, blockchain, cyber, it's really wonderful to talk about what we bring the industry experience to the younger lot who can really take it on further.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think a lot of us are as much interested in hearing from you, but I'm also very interested in knowing what it is that the youngsters have to ask of you. And we'll also have an interactive round, so it will be interesting to see what our audience is thinking and wanting to ask and discuss. Let's also say good evening to Joyjeet Maiti. Mr. Maiti graduated from this institute in 2007 with his bachelor's in industrial engineering and management. He's currently the vice president at Moglix. He has notable expertise in business developments, a prominent leader, of course, in e-commerce. After passing out from KP, he pursued his MBA from IIM Kozhikode. He was also the ex-manager at Snapdeal and ICICI Bank. So, Joyjeet, good evening to you as well.
Thanks, Tanvi, for such a warm and nice, introduction. So it's really humbling, and I think that I represent the younger lot of the KGP alumni here, and it's really a great honor to be in the same panel with such, I think, senior stalwarts from the campus. It's really a great experience, and thanks for this opportunity to the alumni cell. Today's topic is definitely it's a great time for discussion on this kind of topic, and I represent commerce industry, and this is a great time, particularly this post-COVID era. So this is one of the pivotal and inflection time for the consumers, how their behaviors are changing towards e-commerce. I think I would try to bring a lot of experience and insights from this 10 or 12 years of experience that I have had the last couple of years that I've spent in Snapdeal and Moglix. And looking forward to this great discussion, and KGP ka tempo high hai.
Well, Joyjeet, I can say very confidently now that this is an extremely polite and agreeable, warm panel. Nobody objected or even changed their expression when you said and made the claim of being the youngest on the panel here.
I was going to say that. No, Joy, don't make us feel old, okay? Not fair.
Right.
We're all young. We're all young.
Say hello to Mr. Bhaskar Majumdar. Mr. Majumdar is the founder and managing partner at Unicorn India Ventures, a Mumbai-based VC fund. He's had a seat at both tables by being a seasoned media and technology executive and entrepreneur, as well as an established early-stage investor and advisor within the UK and India. In fact, prior to being an investor and entrepreneur, he had held senior corporate positions with Times of India, Zee Telefilms in Alta Vista, UK. He's a native of IIT Kharagpur and an AMP from Harvard. He's recently authored a book that's to be published in January 2021. It's titled Everything Starts from Nothing, in which he endeavors to capture the essence of the startup ecosystem. Good evening to you, Mr. Majumdar.
Good evening to you, Tanvi. So, since you very rightly said Joyjeet was the youngest, I can very well say I'm the oldest. And I still remember in '87 when we first went to the director at that time in KGP, Mr. Sanyal, to start what was then called the STEP, which was the predecessor to the E-Cell. And since those days, obviously, we have come a long, long way when entrepreneurship, I guess, is ingrained very much in KGP. KGP, of course, is very close to my heart in more ways than one. My wife, she's from KGP. So, we have KGP ingrained in our day to day life. We are very active with the alumni cells. And more importantly, from the fund I run, uh, we obviously tend to back a whole lot of entrepreneurs. But over the last 6 years, we would have backed some 3 or 4 KGP teams and founders. And KGP interns are always a part of our fund. And as you very rightly said, Tanvi and everyone else, I think this topic today is very, very relevant. And fundamentally, I am a strong believer of this whole digitalization that is taking place, especially in a fragmented and broken country like India, where the supply chains are totally broken. So I think we have some good discussions to have today.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And once again, welcome to everybody on this conversation on innovation, digitization, and entrepreneurship. In fact, that's what this conversation is going to be centered around. And I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's just dive into this conversation. I have a long list of questions for all of you guys. Let's start with AI. And from driverless cars to virtual doctors, artificial intelligence is actually transforming the way we all live our lives, the way we travel, the way we do our business, our daily life, the way we listen to music. AI is literally in every part of our life and every practice or program or device that we're using. What I want to know from all of you is how much does artificial intelligence as a field, how much more can it broaden in the upcoming years? What will be its impact or go forward? And in fact, Mr. Majumdar, why don't we start with you?
Tanvi, while we have people who are much more into technology and they can speak on from the technology perspective, from my side, AI today is no more something. It is all encompassing. If you step
Yeah.
back 20 years ago and someone said that I'm doing a web business, that made a lot of sense. But just like after that, everything became web. Similar with AI, we are still referring to AI as a particular vertical or a domain, but fundamentally it is ingrained in everything we do. And come another 5 years or so, we won't even be talking of AI because it will be an integral part in all the areas you've mentioned. Fundamentally, what it is basically, I'm pretty close to the media world and I can give media as an example just to ingrain you in, Tanvi. But in the
Yeah.
media world, we have started to see there's a bunch of about 50% of New York Times output today is supposedly generated by robo journalists, if you will.
Yeah.
And more that is starting to happen. So in my view, if we take again media as an industry, the news part will be very dominant by robo AI, call it what you will, but it will be the views part where obviously you will keep on having the human interface and the real journalism coming into play. So nothing is going to go away. It is going to be a realignment of skill sets, and I guess that's where the world is headed towards.
That's what we are hoping for, and we are banking on that it makes our life easier, but and doesn't take away our livelihood. In fact, we've had many of those conversations, within our group itself. Because obviously, any company today that wants to grow and thrive and be ahead in the game is looking at all kind of technology, options as we go along. So these conversations have happened. So let me also ask Joyjeet Mehdi this question. Joyjeet, what next for artificial intelligence from here on?
So the main application or potential application of I see, particularly if I talk about from e-commerce perspective, personalization of the UI or the shopping experience, particularly if any user logs in and what he or she gets to see on the screen. That personalization of the content, that is one of the key application area. And the next biggest application area is the chatbot, how we are engaging with the customers.
Yeah.
So as we see, I mean, we are going towards more self-serve type of e-commerce. Self-serve means the customers don't interact with anyone from the company or anyone from the sales rep, but the customers is shopping on his own. But still in India, as I all of us, we understand how consumers behavior, we need little bit of assistance, and that assistance is something is kind of unique to Indian market. And how we provide that assistance in a very sustainable organizational structure, that has been the main discussion point, and challenging for many entrepreneurs. So chatbot, that is why is becoming very very fundamental to that sustainable growth. And AI is the enabler for that chatbot. What kind of questions that customers can ask, what point in time, at what sales stage. So giving those kinds of answers with AI enabled kind of platform, that is where I see AI is heading in e-commerce kind of industry.
So let me also ask you this before I go on to our other panelists very quickly. Right now, a lot of AI will be used to anticipate what a customer likes, what would be next, what could match. From a user point of view, it's to tell me that I may also like these things. At what point will my user start telling me what I need next? This is what I need to buy in the coming days. How far away are we from that?
See, that is also product recommendation. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of, I think, the next stage of the personalization of the content. So after looking at the data of the shopping behavior of one customers and his entire, shopping, browsing and searching behavior, that is the next stage. What kind of product he can buy probably, next month. So I'll tell you one example from the B2B industry.
Yeah.
So B2B industry or a B2B purchase, a business purchase is kind of, there is a fixed cycle, there's a predictability than the impulsive shopping behavior of typical B2C market. So it's more, I would say, possible in B2B scenario to predict what kind of next purchase is going to happen. So I see
Yeah.
that possibility happening in B2B than B2C.
Then B2C. Fair enough. That makes sense. In fact, just let's broad base this a little. And of course, because our, one of our biggest focuses today is entrepreneurship, and it's where it meets with technology. Technology entrepreneurship, as the term is now being used, which is a vehicle that facilitates prosperity in individuals, firms, regions, and even nations to a great extent. Now, the study of technology entrepreneurship, therefore, serves as an important function beyond satisfying the intellectual curiosity. So I guess what I want to know, from all of you is what are the factors that enable technology entrepreneurship in established firms and upcoming firms, and the principal effect it may have. Mr. Vamidi, let's start with you on this.
Sure. So Tanvi, I am actually an entrepreneur myself. So I'm not part of a
Yeah.
larger organization, but I can speak for a larger organization. I've worked with multi-billion dollar companies in the past. I think it's different. As an entrepreneur, I've been running my company in the social intelligence and analytics space for the last 7 years. And I know the challenges that entrepreneurship can bring when you're doing it alone. And we bootstrap for most of our history. So, we've had our own challenges. When you talk about incubating entrepreneurship within a larger organization, I think there are clear benefits of doing that, right? One, there are intrapreneurs, for example, that an organization can support, somebody who has a great idea but requires the resources to support that and execute that. You can incubate that, you can help them grow, you can allow them to get the initial product market fit. And of course, because you're part of the larger organization, the initial customer is sorted. and the company can allow you to scale by providing the right kind of resources. So my context is different, but of course, it can work a lot better if we were part of a larger organization. It would be different, but exciting as well.
Okay, interesting, Mr. Mohan. Would you like to comment on this as well? The study of technology entrepreneurship and where and how it can be used.
Sure. Yeah, I think Ram has rightly covered. I think while there is a marked difference between having running your own enterprise, and having entrepreneurship inside an organization, but I think this trend is increasing. A lot of large companies have or had a lot of good success. If they find that somebody is having a good idea, they in a way and enable them by providing all the resources, and then very often they spin it off, right? So that's another way of making money as well. So it's a win-win situation, and I think that's an increasing trend, and I think that's really a good trend as well.
Okay. In fact, the other thing that I think the students here tell me that they're very interested in knowing is how effectively can technology really contribute to, again, small or especially large capacity, large scale, organizations, and how does digitization really impact a stakeholder's perspective when it comes to coordination or even transparency? Apurva, let's begin with you on this one. Your view on utilizing technology effectively at a large scale.
Well, we're kind of doing that as we speak. I mean, to be able to connect from Cambridge and get all this knowledge in a room without technology would be possible. So that's point number one. But technology has become at the core of collaboration and transparency now, right? So there are amazing tools around us which enable organizations to not just share knowledge, but even mine knowledge. And at the other end, which is, I would say, governance and administration, you can have all that transparency available because you can reach out to each and every facet of a person's knowledge base, network, and ecosystem. So technology is going to play a big role there. At the same time, what we need to think about, and I'm going back to the previous question as well, having a good idea is not good enough, Tanvi, in this space. If you're an entrepreneur and innovator, and hence becoming part of an ecosystem, that collaboration, you need to also be able to exploit technology and the network that technology provides you. From the moment I've logged into a call, I'm now linked into Mohan, and I'm linked into Bhaskar. And just exploiting that network should be the biggest thing, if not the second biggest thing, a technology entrepreneur should focus on. Yeah, and technology has helped with that.
Yeah. Oh yes, absolutely. Okay, let me also bring in Mr. Inderjeet Singh as well on this. And Mr. Inderjeet Singh, there are two parts to it, isn't it? One is the use of technology to grow your business or as an interface with the rest of the industry or outside. And the other is also internally for better coordination within your own segments, for more transparency, utilizing it effectively to make yourselves a lot more open and efficient.
Yeah, so while we talk of the technology which is being used on the outside, we really are going in for a customer experience. We are using a lot of technology to have the better customer experience. And when we talk of the AI, that are the kind of tools what we are using all throughout to have a better customer experience. And when we come inwards, so we are talking of the industry 4.0, which is actually taking on and bringing in a lot of transparency in your processes. You're getting in a blockchain technology, right? Which is going to be the next level of bringing in technology. AI, of course, the top level of the, if you put it on the stack, is going to give you the ease of working and gives you the predictive results, prescriptive results, so that the life cycle of any product development what you're doing reduces quite a bit. So the technology is now enabling us both inwards and outside. So while we talk of all the disruptive technologies, the IoT or AI or blockchain, and on top of it is the cybersecurity, which everybody is talking every day. So these are the technologies which really are taking on quite a bit today.
The point that I think Bhaskar raised right at the beginning, which was about the utilization of AI, or for that matter, actually any kind of technology. Effectively, the idea is to make our lives easier, to optimize our work, to bring in a lot, make innovations easier, inventions easier, reduce our workload. Often the point that's raised is, does it lead to loss of jobs? Does it lead to then unemployment? Um, maybe I'll ask the question to Mr. Ram first. Ram, what's your sense, this balance and the fear of what technology leads to versus the benefits?
Yeah, so Tanvi, I think that's a very, very interesting point. When we talk about AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, we talk about how can artificial intelligence solve problems for us and solve them at scale. And artificial intelligence, AI, is very good when you have a lot of data. AI is good at crunching the data and figuring out good ways of learning. Adaptive learning, and the ultimate goal for AI, of course, is can AI do everything that humans can do? Can they replace humans? And there are, of course, existential questions for humans. But we'll not go there. We'll stick with the question that you asked here, which is about unemployment. If you look at there were jobs 50 years ago which do not exist anymore, like a stenographer, for example. Like, does anybody remember that? Shorthand. Everybody today has a keyboard of their own. There are jobs which have already become, they vanished. And there's more that's going to happen as AI takes over. And this is something which we have to live with. Now, the question is, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with this at an individual level, at a corporate level, and what policies does the government need to make sure that people who are going to go out of jobs can be reskilled and retrained to take on new roles? So today there are new jobs that are there which weren't there 20 or 30 years ago. There was no internet 30 years ago, right? So it's completely created a new kind of jobs and new kind of skills are required today than 25, 30 years ago. So yes, there will be unemployment. There will be impact on people, especially on people who are in unskilled and semi-skilled kind of jobs. And there is an urgent need for us to look at, retraining and reskilling people so that they're ready for the new kind of jobs that AI will bring.
So
Tanvi, can I add to that? Just
yes,
bringing on this.
absolutely good. Yeah.
I don't live very far from where the Industrial Revolution started, and from those days, every time and something new came, there's been
Yeah.
this fear of loss of job.
Yeah.
40 years ago, you would be worried about automation, and in manufacturing space, we will lose our jobs. 10 years ago, you were talking about machine learning and AI, and we're still talking about it. What's changed is my father didn't have to upskill significantly his whole lifetime. I have to upskill every 2 years. So the
Yeah.
emphasis now is on continuous improvement and learning, and you cannot escape it anymore. Yeah, you cannot stay in one job forever, and it's just a different way of life. What's changed is the pace of technology, but humankind has faced this question or this challenge time and again, like right from industrial revolution till now. So I'm not too worried about it. We'll find a way through.
So, what I was going to ask, and any of you can come in on this, is how does this evolution progress from here on? Does it need a structured path and planning? Does it need government intervention? Repeatedly,
Yeah.
there is this debate about creation of jobs, or is this a natural evolution where newer uh, options will pop up as we innovate and then thereby cater for the job?
Yeah,
Indrajit,
yeah. I'll take it on. At a government level, what is required is you need to have a real foresight into the next level of jobs which people require. Those policies have to become in place right now, right? So what Ram was saying about upskilling, it's really required. And if you look at all our institutions which are teaching, it's like old school thought. Whereas the industry requires a new kind of technologies, new kind of skill set which is there. And when the students really pass out from any institute and they find going to for a job, they are all helter skelter because they don't know where to go for and what job to find. So to skill themselves, then they start doing the courses which are there. Some different courses with giving them some skill, but that's not the right way of skilling themselves. It's a government level strategy which has to come in place where they really need to change the curriculums of the institutes so that they're industry enabled whenever the student really passes out. Otherwise, it's going to be a big problem in times to come. And when I say that, and that's the same thing what we are resonating. It's not that the jobs are going to go out. It's only that some of the jobs are going to be automated, and the people really have to skill themselves to do those kind of job. Unskilled and semi-skilled are going to really face a problem in times to come. But then that's the way it is. It's always been. Even when computers came in, that's the situation it was. So that's going to be in the same manner. It's going to go on.
Yeah, and I think in a country like India, that will continue to pose a big challenge.
Yeah.
For our planners and policy makers to figure out how they pull in that majority of that population as well on new age platforms.
Because the complete institute curriculums are all kind of structured on an old pattern. Still, there
Absolutely.
are similar kind of technologies which we studied that time. There hardly any change, maybe 5%, 10%, but then it really needs to change altogether.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the next question is of great interest to all of our audience, at least for any youngster. One conversation that happens at that point of time is what opportunities am I getting here at home versus if I have to go elsewhere, and if I want to contribute to the nation's building process, how can we do that? Can India become a source or a global hub of innovation? Now, that's something that I think we want to hear from a lot of you. Maybe Joyjit, you can start off with that. Can we be, the next go-to destination for all kinds of innovations and new ideas?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Actually, some point in time, all of us have, I think, reflected or thought on this, whether India or abroad, right? So that
Yeah.
decision, I think I personally also have kind of experienced that phase in life. And one thing I believed that India is going to be the land of opportunity for next, not only just this decade and 2 and 3 decades, and which will span my entire career. So sitting in 2010, and I believe that only two options I have: either doing MBA in India or doing PhD or similar kind of higher studies in US and settling down in US. And but what I believe that the kind of job I can do in India and the kind of the roles I can do in India, that will be enormous in terms of satisfaction. And personally, that is little bit related to what I like to do, because I like to build things from the scratch, and probably I would not have got that opportunity elsewhere. Probably working in big organizations, so I was kind of inclined to always working in smaller organizations or starting from the scratch. And I believe that India would be that golden land for with a lot of opportunity. And when I joined e-commerce industry way back in 2014, and that point in time e-commerce is just starting up, and joining a startup like Snapdeal, and then starting off with the founder Rahul of founder of Moglix, and together I have experienced that entire journey of creating an organization up to this level, where we have come so far. So I think that belief was not wrong at all. So that case study or use case I have seen personally, and the same message would be there for all the students here in this panel, and any other campus. That the same message. The decade that we have seen, 2010 to 20, was kind of anxiety whether it will happen or not. And this till this 2020, that story has been proven right. And next decade is brighter. It's shining brighter with more opportunities in India.
Mr. Majumdar, would you like to add to this?
Well, I think where we are living today is very different from my times. So today, irrespective of whether you are the students pass out and go over to the US or in UK, you're very integrated with what's happening on in India. I mean, today, well, I've known a bunch of guys who've recently passed out from the different IITs, gone to the US, but come back and started businesses in India, which is very different from my times, because at that time, if you went away, and especially to the US, and you went ahead and you really got lost in the US, either US academia or the US corporate world. Therefore, while I agree totally to what Jajit had said, that India remains the land of opportunities, I still think that getting an exposure in the overseas world and then coming back to India is not a bad idea for the students who are looking to pass out, because today it's basically all of us are sailing the same ship, irrespective of
Hmm.
where we are quoting it from.
Yeah, I think I would like to add to that, Tanvi. I'm
Sure.
so, I'm your reverse brain drain kind of a person. I spent 10 years in UK and I came back. So, Georgit, I agree with you that India will be a land of opportunities. And Bhaskar, you're right that the exposure that you get when you are in UK, USA, or another country where a lot of innovation is happening is definitely very useful when you come back and you try and implement that in India. If you look at the overall, the global innovation index rankings, however, okay, in the last 10 years, India has only moved 4 points from 56 to 52, right? So although on paper it looks like there are a lot of opportunities, I think there's a lot more that we need to do. There are a lot of opportunities that are coming up. Technology and AI are throwing up, which can be solved through innovation. In various areas, you look at healthcare, there's so much data available that you can have virtual doctors now. There's data about your health available. You look at retail, automated checkouts are happening. You look at manufacturing, there's a lot more innovation that's happening. Education, for example, has possibilities of edtech is taking off in India, and there are areas where you can look at adaptive learning or collaborative learning. The reason I'm saying is there are so many problems to solve, and instead of going out of India, you can actually stay and solve those problems. And the startup ecosystem is pretty vibrant in India now. Funding is not a problem. If you want funding, you can go out and get funding as long as you have the right idea and you can execute well. That should also not be a problem. So so Jajit, slightly contrarian to you, I do agree that there are a lot of opportunities, but the needle has not moved significantly in the last few years.
Why
Tanvi,
hasn't the needle
I think,
moved? Yeah.
sorry.
No. What I'm trying to understand is, why hasn't the needle moved? There's obviously no
So,
doubt that we have the talent. You are saying that the opportunities and the funding exist. Then where's the lack?
so Tanvi, innovation and is a very misused word, I must say.
Okay.
Uh, if we step back and see where the country, from a larger macro perspective, where a country is in its evolution, India as a country, as a nation state, is in very formative years. And India for the next 50 years, I can say, will never be a land of innovation. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. India is always going to be a land, a market for the innovation. So the innovations per se are going to happen in the West, be it in the US or to a lesser extent in Europe. But India is going to be the market for the innovations. And if I can give you case after case of industry after industry where India has taken the innovation that has happened in the West, revitalized it and remorphed it for the way it works in India and scaled up in a much bigger way. So therefore, looking at merely the innovation index is, I think, far-fetched, because India hasn't reached the state where they will talk about innovation. If you take a simple example like IIT, at this point in time, my son is going to the University of Pennsylvania. They That's a government, that's a privately funded university having a similar education to IIT at a cost about 60 times what it is. Their donorship levels is about $1 billion a year they get of alumni loans. Where are these numbers in India? And innovation per se is a common matrix around which you have to compare. So I don't think India is going to be a temple of innovation, and we have to be realistic about it and not be ashamed about it. But
Sure.
it is going to be a market, and a market where digital innovators from that perspective will just scale up and provide services and provide elements for the country.
Tanvi, can I
Mohan,
add?
would you like to comment? Yes. Okay. Mohan first, and then I'll go to.
Sorry, yeah. So basically, I just wanted to add from my own experience, and like Ram mentioned, I'm also a reverse brain drain guy. I was in the US for 4 years before I returned here. Now, coming back to I think the original question for the students of, whether India or abroad. I just wanted to add here that number one, there is a personal choice as well, right? So there are some people determined that, okay, I've done my degree from IT and they come prepared with the GRE from first year itself, and they say, I'm going to this particular university and gone, right? So that's a personal choice. And this is more so during our time, right? During our time, after completing BTech, we only had two choices: either go abroad, which in fact 99% of my batchmates have done, or go for IIM, MBA, right? These were the two choices. But having said that, today I think there are much more opportunities in India. So students don't have to be hung up with only these two choices. Like Joyjit mentioned, there is a startup ecosystem is pretty strong. While I agree with Ram that we have probably not made the progress that we have wanted, which is more like an exponential progress we did not make. But I think we are doing a linear progress. I'm a staunch, optimist. So I look at it in a more positive way. With some of the, programs like Startup India, Make in India, and so on. While yes, they should have had a lot more results than we see now, but nevertheless, I think there is some progress, and today there is a lot more. There are a lot more options for the youngsters than we had earlier. Yeah, sorry, Tanvi, I interrupted.
No, absolutely not. I mean, obviously we want to hear from everybody. I think this is one question that's on the mind of every youngster.
Yeah.
Yeah, Apurva, go ahead.
Yes.
Apurva.
Feeling slightly guilty that not part of the reverse brain. but the big thing is you don't have to be in India to contribute to India. The biggest difference that the IIT exodus has made is actually showed the world that India can do these great things. Yeah. Everybody asks me, oh, Sundar Pichai he's from your institute.
Oh yes, from Nirval.
Yeah. So the brand name that we have created, kudos to all our seniors who've gone out there in the US and made a difference. Don't underestimate that. That's an amazing brand name. Companies like TCS, Infosys, Cognizant, I work 300,000 employees. They're exploiting that brand name today. That India stands for that digital edge. They have brain power and all that. What should students do? I think follow your dream, guys. You didn't go to IIT because you just wanted to study something. You went there and you like me, the last 2 years after 10th were crazy, mugging and all that stuff and competing. You went there to fulfill your dreams. And while fulfilling your dreams, if you have India in your mind, wonderful. Yeah. So I took away a bit of my guilt, but don't worry about it. Follow your dream, follow your passion. And as you do it, you'll contribute back to your alma mater, to your country. I'm not asked about it.
That's why, Apurva, I don't think it's about saying that, oh, you chose this over that, or for you to carry any guilt. It's to say, will there be a lot more opportunities for our ideas to translate here rather than going elsewhere with our ideas?
Absolutely, it will, Tanvi. That's a social network.
Yeah, India has got a land of opportunities now. Last 2-3 years, things have really changed. After the Startup India and other programs which have come in, and my panelists and others have also resonated the same thing. We are getting the startup funds. We are having the market. We are having the consumers. We have the right set of technology with us. It's only the gap period what we are really worried about. I think we'll overcome that, and the talent what we have, it's going to be really used in India as well. So we should make the right kind of, whether to be in India or not to be in India. But then I personally feel India has got a huge potential right now.
No doubt about it.
Where the other countries have, the US and the other countries may have been on the peak of their technology in the Silicon Valley. We still have a lot of potential to grow in this area and make use of it. It's only that we are not making use of this, the ground what we have, and we try to go to other places and try and search for those things. The option is all open, but definitely here too we have a lot of things which we can do.
One of the biggest consumer markets.
Yeah, biggest consumer market we have, and that is what
number
is
of
the
people
major
still
game.
in small towns and villages. The amount of services you can sell. I mean, it has to be the land of opportunity. And
Yeah,
with the Gaudi mind we have in
you see,
India,
everything is shifting to the rural market. Whether it's your networks, whether your e-commerce, whether it's your internet, all big companies are coming now. Facebook, Google, they want to extend their networks to the rural market. It's so huge, and that's what we really can build up those kind of e-commerce players.
Absolutely.
We really have those talents to get into that, and to give them the best connectivity to them. So
Yeah.
we have a huge opportunity.
So
Indeed,
here actually
adding
the
to the
key thing.
government element in this, when the Make in India program was launched, I was part of Rolls-Royce, which went back to India, opened an office in India, and GE, Airbus, Boeing, all of them. And so government has a big role as well in bringing technology back to India. I was a big fan of Make in India. I think we had very high expectations, but we need to continue on that path. No country becomes a superpower in 10 years. So we need to
Yeah, I
just
don't think those kind of projects are overnight projects either. It takes time for any such scheme or campaign to.
And the COVID has brought in a situation where we are trying to be self-sufficient. Maybe the chip development and the product development. So I think the things have changed over a period of time.
Okay,
Right.
we're going to start with our questions in just a bit. So I just want to tell our audience members as well, if you have specific questions, to put it on the on the list there, and I'll take some of them. Yes, Joyjeet, go ahead, please.
Actually, we can sum it up like this way. The opportunity that we are talking about in India, it's actually there are so many problems are out there to solve. So that is one, and we are actually in the very in the beginning phase of the digitization curve. We are under penetrated in terms of digitalization, and which is also the topic. So that's why if you look at all the startups and all the new innovations that we are doing, so fundamentally actually it's a digitalization. So we are digitizing or getting converting one sector from unorganized phase to organized phase. So that is one common thread for all the innovations that we are doing. So there are so many sectors and industries are unorganized, or the penetration and application of technology or digitalization is so poor, or not so poor, that will be the right word, but less penetrated. That is where the opportunity lies. That is where actually all the being from IIT with all the knowledge and skill set in the latest technology and the access to this technology and education we have, we can apply that. If somebody is more interested in application than learning, then India is the land for him. And if somebody is interested more learning and also getting access to new technology, what's happening in the more advanced world, then definitely the entire world would be his place for exploration. So that's the word.
Yeah, okay, fairly put, and I think that really puts it in perspective. My last question before I open it up to audience is a lot to do with your own experiences. Now we have a panel where everybody's done achieved great many things. You've all worked across several organizations internationally and back here in India. Our audience wants to know uh, how does it impact your daily life? What about the personal professional balance, and how do you maintain that? And I'm very actually intrigued by the fact that youngsters at this age are very interested in talking about this and knowing about it. So let me
I
just,
will take this. I will take this question first. And
okay, we'll start with Indrajit
yeah,
and then we'll go to
I have got a military background, and what I learned all this year, and while I'm in the corporate, what defines and what differentiates between a good and a bad, and a success and an unsuccessful person is the time. And if you're managing your time well, if you're scheduling your day well, that's the biggest takeaway which I will give. Because anywhere you are prepared in time, rightly dressed, right mindset, you have done your job well, and definitely you'll be successful. So that's how really it is. And this I learned in military, and it stands pretty good even today in the corporate. So that's the takeaway, biggest takeaway of my life. And if you follow it, never fail that way.
Yeah,
Ram,
I
do you want
agree
to
with.
come in on this? Because I think it's a lot about the work culture as well, and
Yes.
I think in our country we are a little lenient with that.
Yeah, definitely. So the military has taught me how to work in a very systematic manner, and I think that's
We need more of you, ex-military men maybe in some of our corporate offices, just
yeah,
to bring in that discipline. Yes,
So
Ram, go ahead.
Tanvi, I'm
Yes,
married, so I understand how military works as well in that sense. Very.
very systematic.
Yeah, so I think time management is definitely very important. For me, there are one or two more things. I run a small startup, and one of the things that's important for an organization, more going beyond an individual, is how do you prioritize things at an organizational level. There are hundreds of things that you can do. A lot of them could be impactful, but at the end of the day, you need to figure out the few that would create the most impact. Learn to prioritize, and of course, like Indrajit said, if your time management is good at an individual level, uh, prioritization, time management, and of course, as you go up the hierarchy, whether you're running your own company or you're in a larger organization, it's important that you learn to delegate things. May not be very important when you are starting off your career, but it gets more and more important as you go up. It's important that you delegate and you put reviews and controls in place to make sure that things are still happening.
So I'll take a different stage to it because I'm not the most organized person or the best time management. And like in the read of a tie today as well. So one of the things I feel is you need to understand your strengths and weaknesses. I'm a passionate guy. For me, time flows. But then if you understand your weaknesses is lack of structure, lack of time management, make sure you have the right people around you to help you that. So
Yeah.
don't think you're in this game on your own. Yeah? Surround yourself with the right people. Create a team around you. So if you're the guy who's unstructured, go and have someone in your team who's structured. So balance it out, and it's all about understanding your weaknesses as well. So what Ram and Ida said, they're absolutely what successful people do well. But if you're not one of those who are structured, find the person that can help you.
And for
Well, I,
me,
I hope,
yeah.
Apurva, that if a lot of your discipline now comes, because of the fact that you're married and it's your wife, then I hope she's also in some boardroom bringing in that time management skills to a company as well, and to her staff. She should absolutely be doing that. Mr. Bhaskar, do you want to add to that, and then I will take up some
Yes.
audience.
Yeah, so for me, there's one thing which is not that relevant to the students because for them it's all very much new, but it's slightly more relevant to the alumni. I think somebody did mention earlier on that the biggest change that people of more so from my generation, late 80s, early 90s pass out, and even somebody else who's passed out earlier on will face is the constant change that is taking place. So one has to constantly change themselves and constantly look at newer things. If I just take my own career per se, I've had what 15 odd years in the corporate world, across three different theaters. But then I started off entrepreneurship early 2000s, and I think that was the best thing I did because that kept me much more relevant rather than getting lost. And I mean, for 15 years, I ran two startups, exited both, and then I realized that I could no more be in my late mid 40s an entrepreneur. So that's when I again moved back to a venture investing, which is very much similar to being an entrepreneur, but then it's more working with the entrepreneurs to do it. I think single careers or even two careers are dead and gone. And I am at the age, early 50s, where I see most of my batchmates. They are either CXOs of companies or having been CXOs, they are now struggling to realize what do they do for the next 20, 25 years. So it's pretty scary out there and I don't want to, scare the folks who are passing out, but one has to stay relevant with changing times. Otherwise, otherwise their whole executive life and career for lives that our parents had, that's dead and gone. And it's no
Yeah,
more.
and, I
Yeah,
think this was raised earlier as well. We are in an age where you have to constantly upgrade your skills, no matter where you are, and at what level or hierarchy of the organization or the industry you are. Let me start taking some of the questions from our audience. I think that they want to hear more from you. Question number one says, Industry 4.0 is the current trend of automation and data exchange in manufacturing technologies. But do you think startup in Industry 4.0 has a market here in India? More specific consulting startup or B2B startup? Joyjeet, is that a question you want to take?
Yeah, I mean, see that demand is there, and more B2B companies and large enterprise they have started realizing the need of all these Industry 4.0 elements, and there are a lot of startups also mushrooming. I mean, in this sector, but no one has been able to actually very clearly figure out what product will be there for what application. So I would say this is very early stage. So definitely IoT and AI, ML. So these are the areas that everyone wants to work in, and from the customer side, from the industry side, they want these elements to be there already implemented, like it was decades back for SAP and ERP. So similar trend it has started for all these Industry 4.0 elements. And with e-commerce coming in, so it will be an amalgamation of all this Industry 4.0 and e-commerce put together. Probably the industry post COVID is going towards Industry 5.0. So that is what we are looking at currently.
In fact,
Yeah,
because you raised that question, I don't know if any of our panelists want to add to this.
yeah,
How much have our paths changed because of COVID and things that we've adapted to or used or learned,
yeah.
and the way our companies have changed their style of working, how much of that has a longer term impact?
Yeah. So Industry 4.0 is a very broad term as well. So right from edge to outcome. Don't think about you need to solve the Industry 4.0 problem per se. Think about where relevance is. And as Industry 4.0 is all about understanding either machine, people, or surrounding and interactions, COVID has made a big impact. So I look after two sectors in manufacturing. Understanding whether people coming in are they actually okay to work in that environment? Are they maintaining social distance? All those factors are becoming important. The other sector I deal a lot with is aerospace and transport. So we're talking about how do you understand crowd movement, crowd behaviors? How can you feed data? How can the machine learn from it? And how can you actually change people's behavior? So say for example you're traveling in London, how could you divert people to a different tube station? If you're traveling across the country, how can you tell people that these times are very busy and you'll struggle with social distancing or pandemic?
Yeah.
How would you change your behavior? So Industry 4.0 is getting into managing social behavior around the pandemic and has had a big role to play, and hopefully a bigger role to play going forward as these industries revive because they've had a big hit.
Okay. This is a very interesting question. If you have a very good startup idea in particular, what are the various ways through which funding can be gotten or can be backed for that idea?
Pitch to Bhaskar.
Yeah. Easiest way. No, I
Yeah,
think on a more serious note, I think maybe I can start, and I'm sure others can add here. So very often, you, especially in India, you can't have just an idea and on a PowerPoint and go for funding. It doesn't work that way. It does, by the way, in Silicon Valley. I know there are investors who will, if they have a compelling idea, they are willing to, there are some bold investors who do that. But again, there also it is far and few and far apart. But the best thing is to invest some kind of from your own resources, get some money, and build at least a small working prototype. It's typically known as a minimum viable product. So that's the minimum that they need to demonstrate that this idea is it can be taken to the market, how it works like a demo. And then there are various ways. One is to start with angel investors. There's an Indian angel network. That's one good place. And nowadays I think there are a lot of events that are happening, startup events. They can pitch there, and so on and so forth. And maybe Ram and Bhaskar can probably add to that. These are a few things from my side.
I think,
Matanyan, I think you should definitely give us some insights, maybe on how it functions.
yeah, I think what Mohan said is correct. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to demean ideas, but having an idea is really not even the starting point of it all. People, it's all about execution, as they say, and how you go about executing an idea is very important. In fact, this is a very important lesson because I see a lot of students per se trying to be very protective about the idea. And while we respect and understand that people will be protective about the idea, at the end of the day, the ideas mean nothing because diamond, no idea. I mean, if you have an idea, I'm sure somebody else somewhere has an idea. And one of the questions I keep hearing from students as well as recent passed out guys is, exactly this. Whichever idea I try to come up with, I find somebody else has done it. That's simply because there is no value in the idea. It's in an execution that
Yeah.
matters. And the other important thing which I just want to, since I have the opportunity, I might as well speak to the students is, while the startup scenario has been great in India, and while it has really grown over the last 5 6 years, unfortunately, like everything else, and thanks a lot to Tanvi, you and your friends from the media, there is got a sense of, how will I put it, a glamour quotient associated with startups. And I
Mhm.
know, a lot of folks today enter the startup simply because of the glamour quotient. They really don't know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And for hearing a success story of a Bhavik, or whoever, of any of these guys, they really don't know what had gone into them for them to be a success story. So my only message to the entrepreneurs is, it's, entrepreneurship is basically a state of mind, as I keep saying. You have to be aware of what you are. It's very easy for you to get derailed. You've passed out and your wingmate has joined, let's say, a Cognizant, and you've started to work in a startup. 3 years down the road, you are a nobody, and that guy is places simply because of the calling card he has of Cognizant. And these have led to a lot of emotional personal issues. And again, I keep saying it's very very important for you to have the entire family support. So without thinking of all this, don't just get carried away by the Forbes 30 under 30 and Fortune's 40 under 40 and go for the glamour and sexiness associated with startups. Think before you step in, and there's absolutely nothing wrong in joining a large company, working for it, and then becoming at the right time to join a startup. So that's the only message I have for
Well,
all
thank,
students.
thank you for keeping it realistic. I think it's extremely essential that people see beyond what is visible. Like you said, there is a glamour to a lot of these things, but they need to know what they're getting into. Joyji, do you want to add to this before I take the next question?
Yeah, Bhaskar rightly mentioned this is personal choice. I mean, first of all, it's we should not, no one should actually get carried away by the apparent attractiveness of that sector or that profile. So what I believe that you should just follow your passion and what you can enjoy doing. So personally, for me, I in the early days of my career, I believe realized that getting part or playing a role in a growing organization or starting organization is something that I would be enjoying a daily basis. I would not enjoy doing any work in already well set up in organization and ecosystem where every work and process already set and well defined. So of course it was very clear for me that I have to be part of a startup ecosystem. So that's why I joined. I didn't found any organization, but I, got myself associated with a startup ecosystem. So I
Yeah.
didn't get into any entrepreneurship on my own. But what I have been doing for the last 5 years with a founder, so it's no less than an entrepreneur. So it's
In
also
fact,
similar
yes.
experience like any other entrepreneur. So it's not just by what it's being shown or glamorized in through media or any other talking discussion point, but one should just follow what he or she wants to do. I mean, that's absolutely, it might sound very very Bollywoodish, but it's true.
Well, many say the same about Bollywood's glamour as well. It's all on the top, and their own struggle is equally hard and real as well. Connected to what we're talking about, there's another question. After getting the exposure and training from the state of art research facilities from outside universities, is startup the only way to incorporate those skills and use them in India? Or is there a possibility that other companies, existing ones, may not be utilizing it? I think Joyji referred to it to a certain extent, but if anybody else wants to add to it, question essentially being that once you learn something abroad, what are your options to utilize it?
Again, the word in entrepreneurship is a word intrapreneurship as well, entrepreneurship. So
Yeah.
there's no one stopping you from doing innovation in a big organization. A lot of big organizations have an innovation cell, have a pretty big R&D department, and I've worked with them in the past. And and there are quite a few of them in India as well. And they have some leading institutes where you can go and innovate. So I won't say startup is the only choice. You can think about joining R&D divisions, innovation division in big companies. Amazon has a big division in Bangalore, and I know they're doing lots of innovation, still struggling against lots of Indian companies, but there's lots of innovation happening from the Indian context there because the market is different. So yeah,
Right. No, as you are
Ram,
also working with
okay, Joyji,
many
go.
large organizations, I mean, the typical question comes, we ask the large organization counterparts, representatives from them, we are very fast in startup. Are you ready, sort of, keep up with that pace? And they say, yes, we understand that, need, startup kind of ecosystem we have created within a large organization setup. And, this people are entrepreneurs in our large organization setup, and they are working like startup. I think many large organizations, global as well as Indian, they have realized that this incubation within their larger scale is required, and that kind of incubation drive is creating a lot of opportunities for those people who would like to work in a startup kind of environment.
George, I want to add to it. There
Yeah.
seems to be as if there's two different worlds: large organization, entrepreneurs. Again, I'm then going back to saying it's an ecosystem play.
Hmm.
Even if you're a small SME, your innovation could become part of a large organization's value stream. So don't look at them in isolation. Even if you're part of
So
a
yeah, practically, Apurva, you're right, because a lot of large organizations in India today are hiring a lot of talented people who are studied abroad, and they are doing pretty well.
yeah.
That's the way they are going now. It's
But in one of my roles as Indrajit, as head of innovation was to work with small SMEs and entrepreneurs. So though I was in a large organization, the interaction with the entrepreneurship was there. And there's lots of cross learning that happens. We talked about agility and pace, but you learn about structure and the real challenges the industry is facing. So don't think about it. It's more of a continuum than separate world.
Right.
I would just like to say that we nobody, and especially in your initial years, even so later, should be shut to any idea. I don't think we live in a world where you can have a definitive path and then not waver from that path at all. Things and times and industries and opportunities are changing so quickly that it really should be that as you do your skill addition, where it is that you see it getting utilized best. We have overshot our time, but if I don't ask this last question, I think I'm going to be trolled a lot later on. So I'm just going to put it out there, and one by one, this everybody has to answer. The best memories that you cherish from your campus days. So we're going to take you back to your IIT Kharagpur days. And Mr. Majumdar, this one we have to start with you.
Yeah, so I was G6 sock cult for the Gymkhana, and for me, Springfest remains the closest memory. Springfest, Tanvi is the cultural festival that we
Yeah,
have in IIT Kharagpur. So for me,
yeah,
for me, in my 4 years, every year the high point used to be the Springfest.
yeah.
I think I
Okay.
would agree with Springfest, but for me, the more tempo event used to be the inter-hall sports and cultural events. And if your hall won it and you were doing a victory procession, there was nothing like it. So I was in Nehru Hall, and we had won the sports trophy, and we'd done our tempo shot. You basically go through the Scholars Avenue in front of all the hostels, all the halls, and it's fully charged and very exciting for me. I think that is the most memorable.
For me, the lighting of Diwali, Ilu, we still, like to see those photographs today. As and when, we see it on the social media, it really excites us. And the second is, whenever there were examinations and there was always a KGP ka tempo high hai, RK ka tempo high hai. It was a calls, we used to get it, and then suddenly we used to have the girls hostel, saying Nehru ka tempo high hai. I think the Nehru has become the hostels have changed for the girls, but then the complete the life in college was really wonderful. The institute was really wonderful.
How old is this phrase, KGB ka tempo
Yes,
high?
I think it's starting from the day it is, because
Vedic times.
with a lot of
Yeah.
alumni, I
Yes.
interact with alumni right from 57 in Delhi chapter, and everybody's, even when we meet for the annual meets, we still talk of KGP ka tempo high.
Yeah.
Great to have that rich history. Yes, Mohan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I know there are so many memories. It would be very difficult to put it in such a short thing. But I think one of the best things that I remember is immediately after placement. I and one of my friends, the name is Milind Gauka, maybe Bhaskar, you may be knowing. We both got a job, and that was like, I think for our batch, that was ours was the first job. So we went around the campus in a rickshaw. Like a victory lap we went around. So that was very, very memorable for me.
Okay. Joyji, do you want to go next?
So I still remember very vividly, I mean, just 12, 13 years back, the final football match between RK and RP, and I was from RK Hall. And so that was the final match, and all the people surrounding that Tata ground. And I was at the penalty shootout. So if I miss, so that was kind of, it's a life and death situation. And I scored finally, and we won. I think after my scoring, another penalty shootout successfully happened. Then RK won. So that success and sharing with everyone with the hostel mates, I think that is still the most amazing experience I have taken away from the 4 years in my IIT Kharagpur.
So I'm the last one, I think. Yeah. So Bhaskar, like you, was the GSEC Soccer as well. So
Yeah.
Spring Fest was special. But what was
Yeah.
special was, while trying to become the GSEC Soccer, used to go to these, I don't know what they were called now. You had to go to every hall, and they would do, it was almost like they'll ask you difficult questions.
Soapbox.
The soapbox.
Thanks, Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My most interesting soapbox was in SN Hall, which was a girls' hostel at that point of time. I think it ended around 2 o'clock. But to be the girls' hostel and being asked difficult question by girls and being ragged by them was good fun. But Elu has to be there, and Elu was special all the years, every year, and all the memories with my wing mates and hall mates was fantastic. I'm glad you
Apurva,
didn't
thank
ask the
you for
worst
that,
experience.
because everybody else was giving me very polite, sanitized version of their memories, and I've heard some stories, because in the last panel, including Mr. Subbarao, who had very similar experiences and stories to share as you were right now. So I was wondering when the real memories are going to come out.
So that Tanvi, you would have noticed none of us spoke anything about any of the academic subjects.
I know.
What a bad memory. We're talking
That
about good
is
memories.
and as an engineer, I can at least say that is true for not just IITians. I think as an engineer,
correct.
all of your special memories are mostly outside the class.
That's true.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
You had
true.
us asked about bad memories, then we had plenty of them in my aero department. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but rag. Interestingly, ragging also came up this time and the last time as well. Many people. I mean, it doesn't happen anymore, I'm told, but
Unfortunately, yeah.
in the earlier days, it was a very inherent part of the culture as well. Well, thank you so much. It's been great to have all of you. I hope our audience also enjoyed it as much as I did. Very insightful. Thank you so much, for the advice and for the guidance and the experiences that you shared with us. I'm just going to hand it back to Abhishek for further details.
Thank you, Tanvi. Pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. It has been a wonderful event, and we all have gained great knowledge and great insights from the great industry tycoons of our institute. I would really like to thank Ms. Tanvi Shukla for hosting the Leadership Summit for both the sessions in a well-interactive manner.
There's some interesting questions being popping up while they're trying to come in. The interesting one is around which sector has the most potential in it. India, like education, agri, and
Yeah.
food. So, anybody has a view on that while we're waiting for these things?
Yeah, I can take it on. Something different for all of them. Of course, data science, everybody talks of, and education, agri, food, data science becomes, all the connecting kind of tool, which is there. And also the tech, uh, anybody wants to get into cybersecurity, that's the area. And cybersecurity is the only resilient market today, even during COVID. So we've seen a lot of potential, thanks to all the hackers, hacking every day and night. And
Hmm.
yeah, so uh, of course, but it's giving you opportunity for a lot of people to develop tools. They're getting to new businesses, while the business is going down, but then uh, the companies are trying to buy products to safeguard themselves. Countries are really looking in for to safeguard their infrastructure, which they never thought of. Their power grids, their water plants, their road networks. That kind of impetus was never there earlier, which I'm seeing suddenly, which is going up. A normal company with good turnover, they never thought of a security in their manufacturing plant. They
Yeah.
suddenly give a call, can you give me some solution to safeguard my manufacturing, some solution to safeguard my pharma, manufacturing line. That's really amazing. So if you want to get into it, AI is the part of the cybersec. So future is AI, of course. And when I say the AI, the underlying technologies are the data science, the machine learning, deep learning, NLP. Learn that, and there are lots of startups which are coming up. And when you were talking about the e-commerce, that's the area everybody getting into with the data science together.
NLP and all that is getting a lot of momentum and importance in
Yeah,
e-commerce
yeah.
industry.
So
Yeah,
adding on,
Sorry.
Abhishek, are you back with us?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were having a dean, associate dean, alumni affairs at Kharagpur among us. So he'll be joining us shortly. So before that, I would like to present a short video on mental health by our partner Mirror Now, who have started a campaign about the same. So here we go.
It's okay, man. Crying is good.
You missed the best night ever, bhaiya.
He's been super weird lately.
Beta, it's just a phase.
Think of those who have it worse than you.
Learn to enjoy life, my boy.
You need to snap out of it, honey.
क्या हो गया? It's so sudden.
It's never sudden. It's time to act now.
Yeah. So sorry for the technical issues, ma'am. So once again, I would really like to thank Ms. Tanvi Shukla for hosting the Leadership Summit for both the sessions in a well interactive manner among us. Okay, so this was a small step by IIT Kharagpur, which will surely light up the spark amongst our audience. On behalf of Students Alumni Cell, I would like to thank our esteemed alumni who, despite their busy schedules, made some time for us in their calendars and joined us to make this event a successful one. We would like to thank our sponsors, Mirror Now and Moglix, for making this far-sighted event a possible one. And not to forget, we would really like to thank our amazing audience who had been great and, most importantly, patient listeners throughout the session. So, here, I officially announce the successful completion of the grand fourth edition of the Leadership Summit 2020, a legacy to cherish. It's been an amazing day and a great pleasure to be amongst you and listen to you. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your cooperation in making this event a resounding success. So it's
thank you for
time
having us.
so it's time to take your leave now. Till then, stay home, stay safe, and more importantly, stay connected. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tanvi.
Thank you, everyone. It's a really pleasure to meet you all.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Same here. Same here.
Bye bye.
Nice to see you all. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.